All right, let's get right into one of the Cold War's most chilling mysteries. The idea that right now, right above your head, there could be lost cosmonauts silently orbiting the Earth. Yeah, their bodies just frozen in the void. And look, this isn't some sci-fi movie plot. This is a very real story of incredible ambition, intense secrecy, and maybe, just maybe, voices crying out from the dark.
I mean, just listen to this. These are supposedly the last words of a female cosmonaut, recorded back in May of 1961. Her capsule was burning up on re-entry. You can hear the panic in her voice. And then, just nothing. Silence. This one single recording, it just rips open the door to a terrifying possibility.
So where in the world did these recordings even come from? Let's start right there with these mysterious signals that were intercepted from space, signals the Soviet Union swore up and down never even existed.
And this really gets to the heart of it all. Was Yuri Gagarin really the first person in space? We all know the official story, right? April 12, 1961. He makes history. But what if that's not the whole story? What if he wasn't the first one up there, but just the first one to make it back alive?
So let's meet the guys who blew this whole thing open. Two Italian brothers, Achille and Giovanni Judica-Cordiglia. Now these guys were amateur radio buffs. Basically, they were like the original space-age nerds, building this incredible listening station in Turin to eavesdrop on the space race. And what they picked up was a heck of a lot more than just the little beeps from Sputnik.
Yeah, between 1960 and 1964, the brothers captured 9 different transmissions, and honestly, they are pure nightmare fuel. We're talking about an SOS signal in Morse code, right when the Soviets were claiming no missions were even in the air. They recorded what sounds like a dying cosmonaut's final, fading heartbeats, labored breathing, and of course, that horrifying recording of a woman's last words as her ship burned. And the official Soviet response? Crickets. Absolute silence.
Okay, so why? Why would anyone cover this up? To get that, you really have to understand the insane pressure of the Cold War space race. This was never just about science or exploration. It was an all-out ideological war fought thousands of miles above the Earth.
And this just lays it out perfectly. You had two completely different ways of thinking. In the US, astronauts were public figures. They were heroes. And when failures happened, and they did, they were public tragedies. The whole nation mourned together. But for the USSR, it was all about secretive victory. Successes were shouted from the rooftops as proof that communism was superior. But failures were state secrets. They were buried.
So you have to get this in your head. For the Soviets, failure just wasn't an option. It's kind of like curating a social media profile today, you know? You only post the perfect pictures, the perfect moments. You delete anything that makes you look bad. The only difference is, in this case, the bad photos they were deleting were actual human beings. A single person's life was totally disposable if it got in the way of the perfect image of the state.
And this obsession with a perfect record led to a truly chilling protocol, a way of dealing with failure by literally making people and events just vanish.
This brings us to a concept that feels like it's ripped straight out of George Orwell's 1984. It's the idea of the unperson. This is someone who isn't just killed, they're erased, wiped from existence. Photos are doctored, records are shredded, history books are rewritten like they were never even born. And this, many believe, is exactly what happened to the lost cosmonauts.
Okay, check out the story of Vladimir Ilyushin, a decorated, famous test pilot. Now get this, just 5 days before Gagarin's famous flight, the Western press starts reporting that Ilyushin secretly went to space, but his capsule crashed and now he's in a coma somewhere in China. The official Soviet story that came out later, oh, he was just in a car accident. A car accident. The timing is, well, it's so convenient it's almost impossible to believe it's a coincidence, right?
And honestly, this whole ghost cosmonaut theory starts to sound way more plausible when you look at the other absolutely massive disasters the Soviet Union managed to keep hidden from the entire world for decades.
Take a look at this number, 126, and that's the minimum estimate. That's how many people were instantly vaporized in 1960 during what's now known as the Nedelin disaster. A fully fueled ICBM just exploded on the launch pad. The head of the whole program, Marshal Nedelin himself, was killed in the blast.
And how long did they keep a lid on this? How long did they hide the fact that over 100 of their top scientists and military personnel were gone? 30 years. The truth didn't come out until 1990. So I ask you, if a government can hide a disaster that big on the ground, what's stopping them from hiding one lost capsule in the silence of space? And this table here tells you everything you need to know about the two systems. In 1961, a cosmonaut trainee named Valentin Bondarenko died in this horrific fire inside an oxygen-rich training chamber. It was a terrifying preview of the Apollo 1 tragedy that would happen years later in the US. But while the Apollo 1 disaster led to a huge public investigation and national mourning, Bondarenko's death, it was a state secret for 25 years. His own family was lied to. He was literally airbrushed out of official photos of cosmonaut trainees.
I mean, this pattern of lying goes all the way down to the animals they sent up. For over 40 years, the world was told this heroic story about Laika, the first dog in orbit, that she survived for a week and was peacefully euthanized. The reality? So much worse. She died in absolute panic and agony from overheating just a few hours into the flight. Think about that. If they're going to lie about a dog for 4 decades, what makes you think they'd ever tell the truth about a lost human being?
So, when you see this proven history of secrecy, of massive cover-ups, of just straight-up lies, it forces us to come back to the most haunting question of all. What really happened to those lost men and women of the Soviet space program? And here it is, the final, chilling thought. The laws of physics, they don't care about politics or state secrets. A capsule, if it gets into a stable orbit, high enough to avoid atmospheric drag, could just stay there. It could circle our planet for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. It is physically possible that the bodies of these ghost cosmonauts are still up there, right now, frozen tombs silently passing over us day after day.
And you know, this terrifying idea of the lost astronaut completely cut off from the rest of us, it's something that has really sunk deep into our culture. You hear it in David Bowie's Space Oddity with Major Tom just floating in his tin can. You see it in the gut-wrenching survival stories in movies like Gravity or The Martian. These stories tap into a fear that feels very primal, and the ghost cosmonaut theory makes it feel terrifyingly real.
So what's the big takeaway here? You know, whether you believe those specific recordings from the Italian brothers are real or not, it almost doesn't matter. The Soviet Union's own records, now declassified, prove they had a culture where hiding fatal mistakes was just standard operating procedure. These ghost cosmonauts might have been scrubbed from the history books here on Earth, but if they are still up there, they are a permanent silent reminder of the true human cost of that race to the stars. Because history can be rewritten, but the universe never forgets.